Hi everyone, Petrik here. So for today's video, this won't be a super positive video. Actually, it is not a positive video, but the purpose of this video is to inform you regarding 15 series, another 15 series that I won't be finishing anytime soon. So if you are waiting for me to do a book review on any of these series, unfortunately, I don't think that will be happening anytime soon, but I try to never say never, and every book, every series that I listed here are for series that I have started reading. I think the last time I made this kind of video, it was in the year 2022, and of course, I have read plenty of books and series since then. But unfortunately, with my constantly increasing TBR pile and the number of books that I just want to read as soon as possible keep on increasing as well, unfortunately, this 15 series will have to be put on the back burner for one of the three reasons. So yeah, I will be dividing this 15 series into three categories. The first category is for series that I have definitely lost interest in, so there is a good chance that I won't be reading any of the series that I listed on this category. And then for the second category, this will be for waning interest, but maybe after the series is completed, maybe I will give it a try again from the beginning and then finish it, maybe. And then finally, for the third category, these are for books that I definitely love. The first book or the second book in the series, I definitely love them, but at the same time, I need to do a second read of these books before I continue with the series, because I need to refresh my connection with the characters and the world. And sometimes, well, most of the time, many years have passed since the last time I read the previous books. So yeah, let's start from the first category. Series that I have lost interest in, and I have 4 series on this list. And let's start with the first one, and it is a super popular one. This is a Devabad trilogy by Shannon Chakraborty. So to be honest, I have actually attempted reading City of Brass, the first book in the Devabad trilogy, I think 2 or 3 years ago. I tried it 2 times and I always DNF'd it around the same 30% mark or something. And you know, I always felt bored reading City of Brass. I tried reading The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi, the newest book by Shannon Chakraborty, and it was a much better reading experience compared to City of Brass for me. And then I tried it again last year. Yeah, 3 times. 3 times I tried reading City of Brass and I just could not finish it. Although I'm interested in the world building, I am just so bored with the narrative, and there is not enough things for me to latch on with the series, even though I heard that the second book, Kingdoms of Copper, is a massive improvement over the first book, City of Brass. But I don't think this is happening anytime soon. So for now, for at least the next 2 years, I don't think I will be reading the Devabad trilogy by Shannon Chakraborty. And the next one, of course, this will not come as a surprise. This is for the Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. The Shade of Magic trilogy, honestly, I actually enjoyed reading the first book, A Darker Shade of Magic. I think it was a good beginning to a trilogy, but the second book, A Gathering of Shadows, and also the third book in the series, A Conjuring of Light, they were some of my least favorite books of all time. And the Threads of Power is the continuation series to that trilogy. Of course, I won't be reading this series due to how much I dislike A Gathering of Shadows and also A Conjuring of Light. And yeah, I think this is also a super mega popular fantasy series. But if you love A Shade of Magic and also the Threads of Power series, then I am not stopping you from loving them. I'm really happy that you love them, and also all the books that I'm going to list in today's video. And then the next one, this is a bit of an underrated book, and honestly, I actually enjoyed reading the first one for this one. This is The Counselor by E.J. Beaton. This is a Machiavellian fantasy novel, and as I said, I loved the first book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars rating, but I don't think there is any sign that the second book is coming. I think it has been 2 or 3 years ever since The Counselor came out, and I have lost interest in the series, even though this is supposed to be a duology. But once the second book comes out, if it comes out, I will have to do a second read of The Counselor, and I don't know whether I will be willing to do that, because believe it or not, even though some of you think that, you know what, it's just one book, you can do it, but it's not that simple. Imagine thinking about this. With so many books, I will have to do a second read of like 100 first book of a series, and that is just not feasible with so many books and series that I want to read. And again, this is why I always say at least try to put a detailed summary of the previous book in your sequel. That way there is a good chance that I can still continue reading the next book immediately without doing a second read of the first book because I just don't have the time. And finally, a similar notion is applicable to the next book on this list, and this is The Protectorate by Megan E. O'Keefe. The first book, The Velocity Weapon, is a book that I enjoyed. I think it is quite suitable to those who love playing the Mass Effect video games, but kind of like a tamer version of Mass Effect. With a good plot twist, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars rating. And again, for this one, I just lost interest. I remember absolutely nothing about the first book, and I don't think, again, I would be reading the series anytime soon, even though it is completed already. And that's it for the first category. And now we move on to the second category, and this is for series that I'm starting to lose interest, but it all depends. When the series is completed, there is still some chance that I might continue reading the series. And I think this is where I will start to get some negative comments because these are popular and well-loved series. Let's start from the first one, a mega popular sci-fi series, and it is the Murderbot series by Martha Wells. I'm sorry, I really tried reading the series. I tried reading the second book, Artificial Condition, I think. Yeah, I tried reading that. I heard that it's supposed to be a massive improvement over the first book. And the first book is not like I actually super disliked it or something, but I just felt like it didn't have enough for me to continue reading this series. It's good, but it's not something special. I mean, yeah, Murderbot is antisocial, and then there are a lot of things that felt relatable to me as a person, but there is no tension, there is no emotion. It just felt so bland to me. And I tried reading the second book, Artificial Condition, and I still felt the same. So hearing that the series is being continued like 3 or 4 more books, I think up to 10 books long, it just made me lose interest even more. So I think I might wait until the series is completed first, and then I'll try reading Artificial Condition again, because for now, I DNF'd it. And speaking of sci-fi, this one will come as a surprise to you, but this is for Skyward Legacy by Brandon Sanderson and also Jancy Patterson. So yeah, I finished reading Skyward just now, the Skyward series, Defiant. I just finished it. It's a great book. It's a great series. But I also don't feel the Skyward series is something special at all. I think the entire series, I gave it 4 stars or 3 stars, or sometimes even below for some of the installments in a Skyward Flight series. Maybe, I forgot already. But my point is that although this is a good story with some great characters, the series never succeeds at making me feel super emotional toward the character, even though I have read 4 novels and also 1 omnibus of novellas. I think the entire Skyward series is just longer than it should be. It's already, as I said, 4 books and also 1 collection of novellas, and then now it's being continued into a series of, I think, trilogy, Skyward Legacy. So yeah, I don't think I will be reading that anytime soon. Not until the series is completed, and then we will see whether my reading mood to read the Skyward Legacy will appear or not. And then moving on to the next series, this is probably considered as an underrated fantasy series, and this is the Silent God series by Justin Cole. So for the Silent God series, I have read the first 2 books, the only available 2 books in the series, Master of Sorrows and also Master Artificer. And now I remember absolutely nothing about the series except that the main character is named Anef. Yeah, that's the only thing I remember about this series now, because it has been 3 years since the second book, Master Artificer, came out. And I do not think Master of the Fallen is due to be published anytime soon. I don't know what happened here, I don't know what's going on, but I really loved the first book, Master of Sorrows. But Master Artificer, in my opinion, was a bit of a downgrade compared to the first book, Master of Sorrows. And I do want to continue reading the series, but at the same time, I think I will have to wait for the series to be completed first, because let's say Master of the Fallen is released. I still don't remember anything about the series. I will have to do a second read of the first 2 books before I read Master of the Fallen, the 3rd book in the series. And plus, if I remember correctly, Justin Cole actually said that he wants his entire series to be a series, a trilogy of quartets. So yeah, in total, it will be 12 books long. I have no idea whether that's happening or not, but for now, the series is still on hiatus, I guess, and there is no confirmation on when Master of the Fallen is coming out. But I think there's a good probability once the series is completed, I will be reading the series from the beginning and find out whether the series is worth it or not. Because as I said, I really love the first book. It is a great coming-of-age fantasy novel with plenty of my favorite tropes, such as the magical school trope. And finally, for the last two books in this category, yeah, this will be probably a surprise if you haven't watched my YouTube channel last year. But these are both by Steven Erikson. These are the Karkanas trilogy and also the Witness trilogy by Steven Erikson. Essentially, the prequel series to the Malazan Book of the Fallen, the Karkanas trilogy, and also the sequel series to Malazan Book of the Fallen, the Witness trilogy. I really don't know what it is with me. I absolutely love Malazan Book of the Fallen. It is one of the greatest epic fantasy series of all time. The 10-book series in Malazan Book of the Fallen, they are just absolutely stunning, impeccable, and contain some of the most intricate and extraordinary world building in epic fantasy with tons of memorable and iconic characters. But Karkanas trilogy and also Witness trilogy, the experience of reading these two is just too different compared to reading Malazan Book of the Fallen for me. And for now, with no sign that Walk in Shadows, the third book in Karkanas, and also the remaining two books in Witness trilogy, there are no signs on when these two series will be continued. I must say that I'm starting to lose interest in reading these two series. But at the same time, I love Malazan Book of the Fallen. So let's say these two series are completed, Karkanas and also Witness trilogy, there is still a good chance I will try reading these two series. But after I finish my second read of the entire Malazan Book of the Fallen, just to refresh my connection and adoration toward the characters and the massive world that Steven Erikson has crafted. Because as I said, I just love Malazan Book of the Fallen. It is truly an incredible series, and if you love epic fantasy, you should try reading it. I think it is worth your time. But yeah, for the Karkanas trilogy and also for the Witness trilogy, I think I might have to wait until these two series are completed first, and then I'll find out whether my second read through these books will be much better or not. Because when it comes to Steven Erikson's books, usually, just like my experience of doing a second read of Gardens of the Moon, Death House Gates, and also Memories of Vice, they are an improved reading experience somehow. Even though that shouldn't be possible, because I love my first time reading experience of Malazan Book of the Fallen so much already. And finally, let's move on to the final category. And as I said in the beginning of this video, these are for books and series that I love. So I will definitely read them to the end of the series. But at the same time, the main problem with for me with this series is that I don't remember a lot regarding what happened in the previous book. So I will have to do a second read. And again, as I said, having to do a second read just for the sake of refreshing my memory and also refreshing my connection with the characters and also the world, well, it requires me to be in the right reading mood. Otherwise, it will feel like work, because there are just too many series facing the same situation. And sometimes I cannot really blame those who wait for some series to be completed. I try to always read every book, every series, even though they are still ongoing series. I try to always read them whenever I feel like I'm in the right mood. But at the same time, there are some series that I try to wait until they are completed first. I cannot deny that I probably would finish this series sooner if I had waited until the series are completed first before trying the first book. But at the same time, this is the conundrum. If I didn't try reading the first book first, then how would I know that I actually love reading the first book in the series? So yeah, that's the situation with the remaining books and series on this list. And I have 6 series on this category. Let's start with the first one. This is for the Legacy trilogy by Matthew Ward. The first book is The Legacy of Ash, and then Legacy of Steel, and finally The Legacy of Light. These are some of the best cover art in my opinion. They are just so stunning. Larry Rostan did the cover art of this trilogy, and usually I don't click with Larry Rostan's cover art, but for this one it really works. But I'm going on a tangent here. I have read Legacy of Ash. It worked quite well as a standalone novel with plenty of rooms for the series to grow in the remaining 2 books. And yes, The Legacy trilogy is completed already, but as I said, in order for me to read Legacy of Steel and also Legacy of Light, I will have to do a second read of Legacy of Ash, because it has been years. It has been years since I read the first book in the Legacy trilogy. And the same one goes for The Lotlands by Jonathan French. The Grey Bastards was the champion of I think the third year in Sub-Published Fantasy Block Off, hosted by Mark Lawrence. Yeah, I think it was that year when The Grey Bastards won the best book of the year in SPFBO, and ever since then it has been picked up by Crown and also Orbit Books with a much inferior cover art. And again, this cover art is actually done by the same artist behind the Legacy trilogy that I just mentioned. Yeah, Larry Rostan did the cover art of this one, and I think this cover art looks absolutely atrocious, ugly, and hideous. And yeah, I despise the cover art of this trilogy. I mean, again, going on a tangent, but I have to mention this. The Sub-Published Fantasy version of The Grey Bastards utilized Raymond Swanland's cover art, and it looks so badass. When it got traditionally published, I really thought Raymond Swanland will be back to do the remaining books in the trilogy, but it did not happen. But cover art aside, I do love The Grey Bastards. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars rating, and I definitely want to continue reading the trilogy. I tried reading the second book, The True Bastards, and again, the same reason that I just mentioned. This is why this series belongs in this category. I tried reading it, and I remember practically nothing about The Grey Bastards. It has been years. I think I read The Grey Bastards in the year 2017, and it has been 7 years since then. So yeah, when I tried reading The True Bastards, I remember nothing, and well, I have to do a second read of The Grey Bastards before I continue with reading the Lotlands trilogy to the end. And speaking of series that started off as a self-published fantasy series, well, the next one is Chronicles of the Wolf Queen by K.S. Veloso. So the first book, The Wolf of Oren-Yaro, I liked it. It was one of the very first few self-published fantasy books that I read and reviewed. I heard that it has been improved in the traditionally published edition, picked up by Orbit Books as well. I have no idea whether that's true or not, but the series is completed now. The second book is the Ikesar Falcon, and then the third book is the Dragon of Jin Sayeng. Similar to The Lotlands by Jonathan French, I read The Wolf of Oren-Yaro, the self-published fantasy version, in the year 2017 as well. So yeah, it has been 7 years since I read that book. So in order for me to continue to read the Ikesar Falcon and also eventually the Dragon of Jin Sayeng, I have to do a second read of The Wolf of Oren-Yaro. And I don't think doing the second read is happening anytime soon, unfortunately. And for the last 3 series on this list, honestly, I only have 1 book left, and then I will be done reading this series. And I actually really enjoyed reading the first book or the first 2 books in this series. So let's start with the first one. Let's start with the first 2 here. They are both duologies. And the first one is the Takes Kalan duology by Arkady Martin. The first book is A Memory Called Empire, and then the second book is A Desolation Called Peace. So I read A Memory Called Empire. It is very complex, ambitious, and also it is filled with a lot of details that I think will be absolutely necessary in order for me to continue reading the conclusion to the duology, A Desolation Called Peace. So yeah, for this one, I also have to do a second read of A Memory Called Empire. And as I said, it is quite an undertaking, because A Memory Called Empire is not what I would call a simple read. It is complex, and I do truly hope that I will do a second read of A Memory Called Empire soon and then continue to A Desolation Called Peace. But again, it depends on my reading mood, and for now, at this moment, at the time of recording this video, I'm really quite confident that reading mood is not happening anytime soon. But for the next one, this is probably the one that will be read first out of all the books and series I list in this category, and this is for the Radiant Emperor duology by Shelley Parker Chan. I really love She Who Became the Sun. I think if you have been subscribed to my YouTube channel since in 2020, in late 2020, I think you will know that I love She Who Became the Sun. It is one of my favorite books. But again, I wish there is a detailed summary regarding what happened in She Who Became the Sun. I still remember vaguely about the events that happened in the first book, Zhu Chongba and then also Oyan, I think, some of the main characters in the first book. But again, I just want to make sure that I'm in the right reading mood and in the right a connection with the characters and the world, so that he who drowned the world, who many people said it's even better than She Who Became the Sun, can be experienced to the fullest for me, because I don't want reading the second book and then feeling like, who's this character again? What happened in the first book? I really hate feeling like that. But as I said, out of all the books and series I listed in today's video, well, this one probably has the biggest chance of being read and reviewed first. And finally, the last series on this category and the last series on today's list. And this is for A Sorcerer's Song by Brian D. Anderson. I love the first book in the series so damn much, The Bard's Blade. I think it is one of the most underrated first book of a series that I have ever read. I get it. I get the criticism regarding the first book, The Bard's Blade. But at the same time, I felt like I was reading it at the right moment, at the right reading mood. And because of that, I love The Bard's Blade very much. And then I tried reading the second book, A Chorus of Fire. In my opinion, it did not really live up to the full potential that the first book, The Bard's Blade, portrayed, but I still end up enjoying the second book, A Chorus of Fire, quite a bit. I gave it, I think, 4 out of 5 stars. And then the final book in the trilogy, The Sword's Elegy, took quite a while for it to come out, and I definitely know that I will have to do a second read of the first 2 books first before I read the final book in the trilogy. So yeah, I don't know when that is happening, because doing a second read of 2 books just for the sake of refreshing, again, my memory with the series and my connection with the characters and the world can feel like work if I don't feel like I'm in the right headspace for it. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for today's video. Again, the purpose of this video isn't to trash talk these books or this series. As you can probably tell that in the third category, these are all series that I love. And I do plan to continue reading them again, but the purpose of this video is just to inform you if you are waiting for a review from me on these books or this series. They are not happening anytime soon. I don't think they are happening within 2 years. Yeah, the number of priority books and series that I want to read right now is just constantly growing and changing, and I don't see the possibility of this 15 series that I just mentioned skyrocketing to the top anytime soon, unfortunately. But who knows? As I said in the beginning of this video, never say never. It all depends on my reading mood. I mean, for example, I mentioned in my previous video or my first video regarding this topic that I do not plan to continue reading The Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini, but now with the release of Murta and also probably with the right expectations going into The Inheritance Cycle, I think I would try continuing reading The Inheritance Cycle after the Murta series is completed, maybe. Again, it all depends on my reading mood and also schedule. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today's video. Do let me know what you think about the series that I listed in today's video, and do you have some series that you just decided to put on the back burner just because you feel it is too busy for you to continue reading them, or maybe you just lost interest? And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me today. As always, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support. Bye bye. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons who keep on supporting me.